everybody, welcome to Flakpanzer's channel. This is the third part of the series of how to RTS. In this video, I'm going to go over how to deploy and where should I deploy. These are very popular questions that I get a lot in my stream and in my Discord. So when you go to deploy your assault teams, there's two ways of doing the deployment. First, you can click here on the little icon where it says deploy. You click on the icon, you click the war funds you want, that it goes to the corresponding unit, and then you click on the city. I'm not going to do it at the moment because I want to click on this particular icon, which is the faction resources, and this gives you the factions resources at the moment of what is available to deploy. Now at the moment, the war just started, and so the faction has lots of resources in it. What you need to understand is that there are limited resources for every faction. The overpopulated factions may have these resources depleted within hours, whereas the other faction resources for other factions are not depleted immediately because the faction just doesn't have those player numbers at the moment in the war. And so the faction has not deployed those units. You can do a full deploy by just clicking up at the top where it says deploy all your assault teams. Just click that. The number appears as to how many assault teams there are, what the number is that goes towards those numbers, and if you click that, then click the major city you want to deploy at, it will deploy all those assault teams all at once. Now when it does do the deploy all at once, it will start to deploy the assault teams in alphabetical order as to how you've named the small name in the assault team. Not based on the big name, it's all based on the small name, and that's what put it in alphabetical order. Now, you may not want to deploy them immediately, all of them at the same time in alphabetical order, because some assault teams need to be deployed first before others. As an example, there are limited number of medium tanks in the faction's resources. If you have a lot of medium tanks in your arsenal of tanks, you may want to deploy those first before they get depleted by anybody else. The idea behind it is the game has a deploy system where it's first come, first serve, but it's also on a round robin type deployment. So if I get my assault team first, then you deploy your assault team, you go next, then I get mine, then you go yours, back and forth. And it depends on how many people are on that list that are looking for that particular resource. Because the medium tanks are limited, then I'm probably going to look for medium tanks first. Myself, I have 15 medium tank assault teams. I will start to deploy these tanks first. Then I might go to the medium destroyers because they are also limited in the amount of amount of tanks available for the faction. So I will start deploying my medium tanks. Then I will go over to the light tank department and so on. I will follow what ensues as to what is available to me, and then I will deploy. Once I get my toys out on the battlefield, then what I'll do is I'll go back and deploy the major army because there's plenty of resources for those available for the faction. Okay. Next thing that you would like to know is, where do I deploy? Well, do I deploy on Warsaw? Do I deploy on Kyiv? Do I deploy on Riga? Do I deploy on Minsk? Where do I deploy, Flak? The answer to that is, if it's a limited number of unit, you want to deploy in an area where you're safe. Because if the assault team deploys, you don't want to be up on the front line and them to be surrounding your city and then having to scramble to leave the area so that you don't get encircled and lose your war funds, lose your assault team. My opinion is, if you're playing for the Soviets, you want to deploy in a major capital that is away from the front line. Taking the time to travel with your assault teams to the front line is easier than having in the back of your mind saying, oh my God, am I deploying on the front line? Am I going to get encircled? You don't want to be in that feeling. So if you're on the Soviet side, probably the two major cities that I would recommend to deploy in at this point in time, the way the map is designed for the Soviets at this point in time, would be either Moscow, and more than likely it's Sevastopol. These these two cities are very difficult for the enemy two factions to reach. That's not to say that they can't reach it throughout the war, but it's not as likely as they will reach those particular cities right from the beginning of the war. You can very easily deploy there and not have a problem. So, that's the way that you were to deploy in the war. That's the best way to deploy assault teams in the war. If you are walking guard, motorized infantry, mechanized infantry, walking infantry, or any other type of toy unit, best to deploy at those and then move them accordingly to the front line of wherever faction you want to play against. This concludes this particular video as far as where to deploy your assault teams and how to deploy. Thank you very much for coming. Make sure you subscribe and to my Twitch channel and to my YouTube channel. I'm sorry, not subscribe to Twitch. Make sure you follow my Twitch channel and my YouTube channel so that you can see further videos of how to RTS. And I will be doing a advanced series of RTSing in the near future. I hope to see you all on the battlefield, and thank you for watching this video. Later, everybody.